Hey, everybody. So we had a pretty good day today in the market. Everybody should be happy to some extent, right? We didn't fall down. We didn't collapse. The stocks that we wanted to went up. The market went up. And our plan's coming to fruition. For those that are new, what we do at the end of every day is just simply go through the stock market, what transpired, and come up with a game plan for tomorrow. What we go over is extremely actionable and time sensitive. So watching this a week later doesn't really do it for you. So for that reason alone, just click the subscribe button and turn on all notifications. Also, formally, we're going to start doing a pre-market show every morning. So we'll start with the 8:45 time. Sometimes it might run about 5 minutes late before it begins, just because I have to plan my day. But it'll be from 8:45 to 9:15. So you want to subscribe to that just so you get the notifications for when we do it. I think that they're extremely productive. If people followed along in the one today, they did exceptionally well today, or should have at least known what they could have been in or what the opportunities were. But let's just get right into it. Let's just drill down. We have a bunch of names to go over. And for those that sent names, if you don't see your name in here, it just means that it was one of like 300 that I just can't get to them all. So I try to pick as close to 30 as possible that are the most actionable. And I'm just going to start here. Also, if I get a litany of people that ask for the same name, I do that one. And that's what happened here, just FYI. So what's really happening with Apple is exactly what you want to see when you're coming out of a base. It's not really being the leader right now, is it? Now, we're in this in the newsletter from 127, but just let's look at what's going on right now in the stock. You've been hitting this 200-day moving average and just holding it, right? That's all you've been doing is just holding this level. And what you really want to see is you want to see it pop over this 50-day. Now, I would like to have seen it pop over the 50-day before the Qs did, and we're going to get to the Qs in a bit, but it didn't do that. So right now, it's not a leader, but it is pinching, and we're pinching between that 50-day and that 200-day. It's exactly what you want to see, and now you're going to get above this. There's very little chance that the XLK, let me put this down here. There's very little chance that the XLK, okay, is going to continue to go up and Apple underperforms, considering that Apple is, come on, there we go. Considering that Apple is, 20% of the XLK. And the other name that you could be looking at in regards to this is Microsoft. We see how Microsoft is already starting to pop. So, and I believe that's not on the list that people that asked for, but you could see this is breaking out. I mean, you needed to get above 250. If you were interested in Microsoft, here's your chance. I mean, I can't say that any clearer. If you were interested in Microsoft, here's your chance. You just broke this downward trend line, and we are going to do these in alphabetical order. I'm just explaining what's going on with Apple. But you see how you broke this downward trend line, and now you're breaking out. Now the 21 days here, this is gone. You've closed over this breakdown bar. So you actually have reverted off this evening star, which should give you a push probably to the 264 level pretty clearly. So there is a trade there. One piece of criticism I got, and I do find valid, is that I need to identify better, and I'll do better on identifying, is this a short-term trade, a longer-term trade? Is this a position trade? I'm going to make some changes with the newsletter and with the videos. And during that, I'm going to break this stuff down a little bit more and to quantify like, hey, this is for the day. If you're not looking for day, this is a position kind of trade, and really get into that a little bit more. I think that people define themselves too much by I'm a swing trader, I'm a position trader, I'm a day trader. I'm going to be blunt. To me, that's nonsense. Unless you're trying to be like a guy that's trading and flat at the end of every day, you're not a true day trader. So why would you limit yourself? You want to limit yourself to the opportunities. If the market is only presenting day trades, are you not supposed to day trade because you're a position trader? I just don't agree with that logic. Some people would just simply say yes, but I just don't agree with that. If all I can make is $1 versus 1,000, I still want to make money. So I don't pigeonhole myself like that, but I understand the criticism or the critique. I wouldn't say it was criticism, but I need to be more specific about what these trades are. And I have a way I'm lining up to do that, and it'll make things a lot easier. So in regards to the Apple, to finish the thought, this is going to break out. It's a question of not when, or not if, it's when. And the 21-day pointing down doesn't bother me. This just looks like it's ready to rip. You've already seen the downward trajectory broken here, right? We've already seen that. You have this overhead resistance right here just to finish the thought. But I don't see any reason why this is not going to follow through. Zero. Especially with today's action. I mean, it's very clear who's in charge of the market now. So ALTO, it's a smaller name. I usually don't throw these up here, but this is pretty interesting. And as always, you want to draw your channels. I don't know why we have that one. Hold on one second. We'll get rid of that. And we'll click on this one. So you can see this channel. As always with these channels, let's go to properties. Let's get rid of these arrows. It's going to drive me nuts. And let's click on this, and we're going to clone these. And we always clone them. Why? Because by cloning them, it gives us our true channel. So there's your channel. Okay, they have to have the same trajectory. If the lines don't have the same trajectory, you don't have a channel. You may have a wedge, you may have another formation, but it's not a channel. Stocks tend to trade in channels, just remember that, more than they trade in any other pattern. So what you're seeing here is you keep retesting this level, and now you're popping through it. And this is pretty actionable, this one. It's why I wanted to put this out there. So not only do I have an ascending, right? I'm ascending here, my wedge, but I have a 21 and a 50-day cross, which is pretty significant here. The 21 coming up through the 50-day, and now I'm closed above the 200-day. Now, if you stop turning your head on an angle, which we all do when we have these lines, and you just look at it straight on, okay, and you just think about it like this for a moment, right? And I know this is hard because I have you looking at it one way. Now you're going to look at it another way.
Market data.
And we're going to get rid of all these lines. Now you're just going to look at it this way. Okay, here's your base. Here's the top of your base, and you can go back with this. You can see how far back it goes, right? So, and it all goes back to this junk too. So we've gotten through all this junk. We've gotten through this, and now we've popped. So you can see how you have a support and resistance, right? And how that support and resistance was right in the middle of this ascending channel, right? You see where I'm going with this. So this is important. Now, getting through this is important. And once we get through the top of this, it's going to keep going. Frankly, this should be very little resistance now. Between the 21, the 50, and the 200 and breaking out of this level, this should go. And the first range to it, the first count will be from here to here. So that should put you roughly about there, about $8, which makes a lot of sense, really, when you think about it. You're right there. So that would be my first target on it. But this looks good. I think this is ready to continue. Whose ever idea it was, that's great. AMC, I'm out of AMC the day that it broke down. I think it's great that it bounced today and it looks like it's going to rally. Maybe it does. To me, you're in a flag. And, it's important that no matter what, honor your stops. You don't change your stop because the stock did something else. You still protect your capital. So, and once I broke the flag like this and took out the low of the flag, I had no idea where it was going. So I have to watch my risk. But see how you're here and then you gap through this. Nothing's really changed here. So to me, I would not be a buyer until I close over this 1454 level. We really struggled with that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And all 4 times I thought it was going to go and it didn't. So watch AMC and watch that level. And I do want to just get this out there why I have people, the newsletter is doing stellar, but if you have people that you wanted to recommend the newsletter to, I'm going to make some changes to it. So, and they're going to be for the positive, but I'm going to make changes. So if you had people that want to get the newsletter, links in the description and in the bio, tell them to get it because there's going to hit a point probably in a week where it's just not going to be as accessible to some of the things that are being offered on it. It's just getting to the point where I think I'm at 4,000 people, and it's just not going to be possible to keep it going the same way. People getting in the trade. So if you have people that are interested in it, have them consider signing up now. I mean, it's free now. So APPS. See how we're running here. You have this base down here, and now you're closed right here. Look, I know people love this name, and I know people hate this name. The reason I'm showing it right now is because you're at a support level. That's a resistance, right? You break through this, it's going here. I mean, it's going to there. Why do I think it's going there? Here, look. And, I could be wrong. Won't be the first time in my life. I was wrong today about Ruby. So we'll get into that trade. So you could see this go right here. 74.45, 78.75. These are your levels. You get through this 21 day, you're going to push. Why do I say that? Because last time we rejected here, look what happened. So if we don't reject that, that means we have a slew of new buyers. It also gets me higher than this wick, which we kind of are right now, aren't we? See how we're just sitting right on, let me drill into this for you so you can see. See how that wick's right there? We're just kind of sitting on it. So just watch what's going on there. Now, BA, I know people like the name. I have been very vocal on the fact that I don't like the name. I stay away from it because of news headlines. They are getting a lot of positive news. To me, your money's better spent in the Qs and in technology right now than chasing industrials. That just had an enormous run in our commodity base. Now, BA may do well because pricing of commodities comes down, therefore their earnings go up, predicated upon that. But we're really a technical channel, so we're going to stick with this. I would want to see institutional ownership above 248, and that's the reason why I have it up here. It is actionable on the downward trend break, right? I can draw this a little better than that, right? So let's just move this up here to there, okay? But you see where I'm going with this? You broke here, and you're above the 21 day, but you still have to get above that 50. And the 50 and 21 did not cross, so you're not doing great here. I mean, you're not taking out higher highs. You're still hitting these lows. Like if you clean this out, you have another downward trend line right here, right? I mean, you should be able to, maybe you see that, maybe you don't. But you see where I'm going with this. So just keep that in mind. I'm not a huge fan of this. If you really want to buy it and you're asking my opinion, you got to get above the 50-day moving average. So this was like number 11 or 12 that was going to be in the list for the top 10 list. And for those that watching the top 10 list, you had 2 today that just look stellar, right? I have to go through them all, but the 10 looks stellar, and so does AMAT, which I need to go over, and I skipped it because I got so excited with the Bs. But BGFV, and whoever does the timestamps is probably going to kill me today because I'm jumping around on the alphabet, but they will majorly be in alphabetical order. But BGFV. So you see that little wedge right there? You really need to pay attention to that. That little wedge is more important than anything. Now, here's why. If you break this wedge, you're going to go to here, right? And you don't have to wait for the top of this wick on this. What I need to do, oh, it's giving me a hard time. There we go. What you need to do is wait for the top of this wick. This wick and this close. If you get above that, you're going to take this out. Okay, that's just a matter of time. So consider that. You're really looking for that 31.46 level. That's where you're looking for your break, more so than waiting for the top of this. You don't really have to wait for the top of this. This was an evening star. It completed with a wedge. It didn't really complete like the rejection of the morning star or of the evening star yet. That will come when it closes above this part, and it might as well just close above the wick at that point, right? So that's really what you're looking for, 31.46, and you can see that evening star that it signified that it might be coming down, and of course that didn't happen, and it just hit support at 26. But if you followed the evening star and you followed that pattern, it still saved you 4 or 5 points. So this one is just one that I really should have had on the list, and I didn't. And I regret it, and it looks great now. So the question is, what do you do with it now? Well, now I have this, which I'm not too crazy about, right? I mean, I've been up here a couple times, so I got to watch that. And then on top of that, I have this. And that's exactly where it stopped. And it stopped here last time too. So you really have to watch that. Hitting higher lows or hitting the highs and we're hitting them lower is not something I'm really looking forward to. Now, we have all these other arrows from where we were in before, and we're just going to get rid of everything right now. And I really want to look at this so you can get it. So let's move this up to here, right? So you've been in this trading range and you've been breaking out of it, and then you fall back into this line. Every single time you're above this line, you fall back down. So I don't see any reason why I'm not going to do that again. And there's a couple other things that you really have to pay attention about with this one, okay? I want to point this out because it's a lesson that I keep trying to explain to people. If you break a channel, you have to pop back in the channel within 3 to 5 days. Okay, so if you break a channel, you have to pop back in that channel in 3 to 5 days. So what did we do right here? Right? 1, 2, 3, boom. So just watch stuff like that because that tells you that we're strong. So you are wedging up here and you are in here, and maybe, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe fifth time is the charm. I would just be apprehensive on this and chasing it. For me, I would rather see this come back down, form a handle, and then go. Much like UPST is doing right now. So, which is why I bought it today, but we'll get into that. So that's CELH. And right now I would definitely not be chasing this. I would wait and see. And I'm going to say this, I'd be really careful. Let me get to AMAT. I'd be really careful before I forget, chasing anything in this market. You don't need to. AMAT was on our top 10 list from Saturday. We were waiting for it to break this line, and we were looking for a key level. I gave 3 key levels today. It took out all 3 of them. I was saying that you could buy it on the 131 line. If you wanted to, you could have waited for the wick of this, for this wick to jump at 132. You could have waited for the 133 line. I mean, there were 3 different key levels here. Yeah. Clearly cleared through all of them today, and it's going higher. I mean, this is going to 146. There's really very little question about it now. Just let it. If you didn't catch it today, just wait. It'll come down. We're not going to go straight up. That's not going to happen. The Qs are going to retest. The Qs will retest the 50-day, and when that happens, AMAT will come in. Stocks will come in. When they come in, that's when you step up and buy. Stop trying to be the greater fool theory that someone else is going to take you out. Have a little patience and just wait. But this will give you another opportunity, and I'll get onto it. I'll do it on Twitter and just state when I think it is, but you can do what you want with that. But I do think that right here, it's very clear. Look, I mean, get rid of this, right? Get rid of these wedges. I mean, here's your line. Look, I mean, you can see this line. It was perfect right from here, and that you're gone. So I totally expect this to continue. And I would definitely have this on your list. Coin, I'm going to just throw this caveat out there. I'm short. Goldman Sachs, I have 2 of these. Goldman came out today and put a buy on them at a $300 target price. The Qs are up 1.77%. Coin is up 62 basis points, and basically hardly held on to that. And let's just review what really transpired today on Coin. So this was my... hold on, let me get to it. Yep, here we are. So here was my open. I don't know what this is. Let's get rid of that. And let's go to this. Okay. So here's my open, and here's my close. All we did was rally up, get to this line, and form what pattern is that. That's an evening star pattern for those that are paying attention. And then what happens? We collapse and we hit support. And look at how we just keep riding that support line. And in one of the sayings I keep telling people, and I'm hoping that they get it, if you keep knocking on a door enough, eventually it's going to break. And you keep knocking on this and testing and filling that gap, which is exactly what you did, what's going to happen? It's going to break. So I still think this is going to $200. I actually think it's going a lot lower, frankly. And, the fact that Goldman couldn't get it up with a 50% target price versus where it is, and they have it up like $1 at the end of the day. I mean, who cares? To me, there's so many other stocks out there that look great. There's no need to be buying this. Actually, what's even happening here, just to throw salt in the wound, is that your trend, do you see these trends when they start doing this? This is setting up to break, to get nasty. So when you have a downward trend line, and let's do this on an hourly so you can understand this, because it's an important concept. And just FYI, some people say they actually take notes when I do this, and then they can go back and review them. But let's just get into it. So there you are in the hourly, right? And you can see that break. But you also have another one right here, right? So what's starting to happen is as you break these and you go to the next one and the next one, as these get lower, it accelerates the move. So you start to get in that panic. Now, this is what usually leads to like a waterfall. And I think you're heading up for something like that. I think you're just going to see a lot of people just really, frankly, just puke this stock out. So no, I am not a buyer of this. If you are a buyer of it, I wish you well, massive success. But I don't get what you're saying. I truly don't. And this stock has done nothing but just absolutely destroy people. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up days since it's come out. I mean, you're better off throwing a dart against a board and picking something. So I've been all over this one, and I haven't put it in the newsletter, and I really have stuck with the newsletter. We're trying to get you to focus on the larger names because of what's going on in the market. The money's going to flow to the larger names first. It's just the way it's going to work right now. You might get your squeezes on some names, and you're going to get some shorts on some names. Like they played the game with Ruby today, but your money's going to flow into the bigger names. It just is. So Crowd clearly is the leader of this sector right now, and I still stand by it where I said it was going to the top of that range. I just want to point this out. I said this needed to clear above this. This is this channel. We had to get back in here. I'd like to be back in this in how long? 3 to 5 days. Is that 3 to 5 days? No, it's not. So the probability of this not holding is increased. And we were looking for a close above 28 back here, never got it. So we stayed away from them. But while we were waiting for that close, look what's happened here. Okay. So, and let's just throw these indicators in. So what's happened here? This is just, it's going to the level that we talked about. It's going to the top of this channel. So, you're at 236. I still think there's 15 points left here. Where you buy it and how you buy it, obviously, is entirely up to you. I'd like to see it come down and then go. What will happen versus what I want to happen are usually two different things, as people saw today in the market. But BPA 138. So that was our BPA is buy price area. And why I have a buy price area is because when I first started doing the newsletter, people would say, oh, I missed the 138 and a quarter. It was 138 and 3/8. I'm throwing out fractions. You can tell how old I am. But it was 138 and a half, right? 138.50, whatever. But you see where I'm going with this? So what we need to do is have an area. So I don't care if you miss it by 25 cents, 50 cents, who cares? I mean, you want to get the best price possible, right? But you don't want to miss the trade. So we got in this at 138 or wherever, and that's why it's buy price area, BPA. And now we're starting to do what I thought we would do, which is break out. And you can see, look where we settled. I mean, does that not make you laugh? Like we settled right on the close. So I didn't even just draw that. It's been there. So we just settled right there. But that's telling me that we're setting up for another move higher. And I think when you get up over this 146, you have nothing but blue skies, this 177, pretty darn fast. So I like this. It's staying in the newsletter. And DDD was in the newsletter, 26 and a half. You can see what's going on here. We had a nice day, another $1.50 added to it. Knocking against that $29. We'll see what happens with it. But overall, I'm very happy here. I'm very happy with the action in this. I guess people wanted to just see what I thought about this one since we just put it in there. But look, I have the 50, the 20. They're pointing up. See these moves? See how they're pointing up? That's what you want. You want them to point up. DMTK, look, I've been reading the fundamental report on this. I am very interested in this name. What I'm not interested in is this. Okay, so, let's just start all over again on this one because I think I think we'd be better served. Let's get rid of all those horizontal lines. Let's get rid of all these segment lines and let's get rid of all this. And let's just look at price for a moment. So just see what you can see just by looking at like a naked chart, right? Like you can see that downtrend, right? You don't need me to tell you that the stock's in a downtrend. Womp, 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 womp. I mean, you see it. Okay. Now, and you don't need me to do this, right? I mean, you kind of get that. And we already know that you clone these, right? Because when you clone them, you get a true trajectory. You might not like where it fits. It might not even fit, but you might find it and it might be there, right? Okay. So this gives you an idea of where your channel is. And you can kind of see how it respects that channel, hits here, tried to get here, broke that channel here, and then what happened? And, take a look. Does it get any better up here? Yeah, gets a little better up here. You can kind of see how it was hitting up here and not staying. Okay, so you see where I'm going with this, right? So now you have a channel. For this to really move, I need to get to the upper part of this channel, which is 48. For it to confirm that it's truly out of the channel, I got to get to 52. Does anybody want to be at $38 and wait for 52? The answer to that is no. There's a reason I'm doing this. Okay. Do you want to wait for a 38% move before you, or 33% move before you buy the stock? The answer is no. All right. So you have to look at this and go, how am I going to get this? Well, you're going to have to look for some kind of pattern here. Now, to me, there's too much risk still. Okay. You could throw this out and go, the 5 to 8 will look good. Right? We know that they're going to look good because we can see what's happened in the past 5 to 8 days. We don't really need the moving averages to know that it's going up, right? But it's interesting to see how it's riding the 5. But now you have these crosses that are coming. You're going to have an 821 cross and everyone's going to get all giddy because they want to trade those. I really don't care. Like, you could trade them all you want, but it's just one more pattern. And if it's not in the pattern, it's irrelevant. So what you need to do is you need to see if you're willing to wait for it to get to 38. If you're not willing for it to get to 38, what you could do with this is go down to smaller time frames and just simply use the high of this wick. Okay? Use the high of that wick, which is 39.43, and say that's where I'm going to buy it. So if I get over 39.50, that's where I'm going to buy it. And my close is going to be the low of the previous day, which is 36.39. So that's a really simple way to get in something that you don't want to wait for what were we looking at here? A 33% move, right? You don't want to wait for that. So that's a simple way to get in there. The probability of the trade working is less than if it's here, obviously. But that's one way that you could get in this. I do like this name, and I think it's acting exceptionally well. Obviously, the time to get this was when you were down here and it had this green bar and got above the 5 and the 8, but it is what it is now. FNGU, the only reason that we're really not pounding this in the newsletter right now, we were stopped at break even to down $1 on it last time. Look, this is acting exceptionally well. The only reason we're not in this in the newsletter is because we're in SOXL, TQQ. I mean, there's no reason to just keep adding these at this point. They've had that breakdown, they've had that move, and you can see where they're going. I mean, they're setting up to move higher. They're going to get above the 21 day. They're going to get above the 50, and they're going to continue. This is going up here. This is going to go to that 34 level, 33, 34 level. It could take time. It could curl and then go back up. But we're not rolling here. I mean, I want to make that very clear. I've been stating for 2 weeks that we're bottoming. And see how you're hitting this, right? It's the same as like when we talked about NVIDIA. And I don't see NVIDIA in my list. But I will definitely go over NVIDIA. But you don't see that, right? Like you don't just fall out of bed unless something macro happens, a war, some type of massive earnings, some deflationary event, something like that could cause this to happen. But other than that, big tech is not going to roll. And that's what this is. This is the 3X ETF of the FANG. So I would just continue to watch this, but it's going to go higher. I mean, if you'd rather be in this than TQQ because you feel like you've missed TQQ, this is going to that 33, 34 level. To me, just like, and we're going to get to the SOX is going in the 40s. I mean, to me, these are no longer ifs, right? We've gone through the if. We're at the when. And that's how I feel. It's just my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. I bought Ruby today. I was not right. So, everybody's entitled to an opinion. I'm just giving you mine. So let's get rid of all this stuff that's on here. So everybody is all over this, right? Because it moved. So look, I've been saying this. I am riding the 21 day, but the 50s right here, I'm still below the 200 day. I mean, here's a really good rule of thumb for people that are new. Okay. Do not buy anything that's below the 200 day moving average. Right. And basically do as I say, not as I do, because I do buy stuff below the 200 day moving average all the time. But what I'm getting at is when you are there is just a litany of people that will not buy the stock, meaning institutions, because it is below there. So you need to keep that into account. You have a litany of institutions that will not buy it until you get above that. As crazy as that is, and people ask why technical analysis works, it works because we're all looking at it. If we all didn't look at technical analysis, it wouldn't work. I mean, it's really that simple. So you need to get above that 50, and then maybe. But I would at this point, I'm going to just say, look, I would wait. How many times was somebody in a Tiger or Futu and got slammed because they didn't wait for the right trigger? So I'm going to say that on this, you could play the 22 line like we talked about earlier, but I would wait to clear that 200 day. So Futu, we're just talking about this. I mean, you could see what happened here today. We had this channel. We broke this channel. Right, we tried to get above it, we couldn't. So we're hitting lower lows, and the Qs are up 2%. What's there to talk about? Why are you in this trade, right? So like, why am I in something that is not performing? Okay, I'm up 17 basis points on the day. I'm up 1/10 of what the major indexes are. Does that sound like relative strength? No, it's not relative strength. Relative strength is like the space trade today that didn't work, that I thought would collapse, right? Relative strength is Tesla up 5%. Okay. Relative strength is the SOXL being up 7%. Futu up 17 basis points today, right? I mean, to me, that's telling you clearly that one, it's either going to retest this low, which this is rounding again. See how it rounded here? Let's get rid of this so you can see what I'm talking about. See how it rounded here? What's it doing here? It's rounding again. How'd that go for this? Not well. So that you're setting up for that. Where could we go with that rounding? Let's get rid of all these segment lines and look at this. I mean, you should probably already see this, but let's just throw it in anyway. Right? So you have this trend line right here. So there's that trend line. And then we just draw this one down to here. So where would this go? So this can go to here, 85, 86. There will be new leaders. There will be others that fall by the wayside. Until this changes its tune, do not go near it. Now, what would change its tune? Get above this peak. Get above that high, that what does it say, 130? Get like 130 and a half. Get above that, and then you can get interested in it. But then you still have this resistance up here, and you have all this junk in here. But at least get above 130 and a half before you take a look at this. So, I mean, to me, that's not great. And that's the only fintech I'm doing. If you're hanging out waiting to see Tiger, I don't see any reason to do that. GoPro is one we had in the newsletter. We actually did well here. We bought it at, where did we buy it? Right at 11. And then we traded up. And then I just said, hey, lock in the 8%, get out. I didn't like this crossover when we did the trade. I just didn't like how it acted. You shouldn't have broken out of the upper channel and then have a negative moving average crossover on top of right where the channel is. It's like a double whammy. So we just blew it out, right? And just moved on, took the profit. And I mean, obviously that was the right move. We'd still be sitting with it if we didn't have a system, but we all have a system in place, and having that system allows us to continue to trade. So let's get rid of this arrow, and you'll see where I'm going with this, because this is getting interesting again. I really am getting interested in this. Okay. Perfect. All right. So you see that wedge right there. And then what you do is you clone these because you need the same trajectory, and you see where that lands. Okay. So there's your channel. Okay. If we pop out of that channel, it's probably going to go. Now, if you want to look for other bells and whistles and see if you're getting any color on that, you're above the 21 day, and I can get to 1150 before I have to worry about that level. So this could break here. A higher high on this would have me very interested if I was wanting to be in this name. And you could see the little uptick in volume here. So I do like this trade, and this is GPRO, GoPro. And I do think that you could move here. This is setting up for that. And let's get rid of these indexes so you can just look. Or indices, so you can just see. All right. NMDM, the only reason I'm doing this is because I was asked probably by 10 or 11 people to cover it. I get it. It's green. It didn't go down on you today. That's great news. But I would say for your stock positions, aim for something a little bit higher than just didn't lose me money today. I don't know how else to say it. Like, this is not something that I'd be doing cartwheels over. There's your support line. You're sitting right on it. Okay, you have a massive downtrend. This is not going back unless there is a fundamental thing that's going to happen, right? Unless there's something fundamental that I don't know about, and very well could be the case. This is not going back anytime soon. So, once these break like this, they're done until they base, and they have to base for a very long period of time. I tried to explain that with this. Like, I love this name, BNGO. Like, I really do. But when you break down like this, it just takes forever to get back up because you have so much supply. You have so much overhead supply of people that are just saying, I'm just going to wait for it to break even. I'm just going to wait for it to break even. And then it gets to their break even, and they close out. Then it comes back down. Then it goes up. It's a cycle. That's what's going on here. So the reason I put this in here is to just say, set your sights a little higher. If there's some fundamental reason why you need to be in this, then that's up to you. But technically, I'm below the 200. I'm fighting to stay above the 5 and the 8 again. And the 21 day is pointing straight down, and the 50 day is pointing straight down. So not exactly a ringing endorsement. QQQ. So it's just going to get right into this. There was a couple things that we needed to see today. Let's get over this. And we're just going to walk through this. We had a solid break of the falling wedge. That was right here, right? Okay, so here's our solid break of the falling wedge. This is from the newsletter. Again, if you don't get the newsletter and you want to, I'd recommend subscribing to it because there's going to be some changes. And they're only going to be changes for the people that already get the newsletter. So it's just getting it's getting unmanageable. But I'm going to issue a letter on it and what we're going to do about it and how we're going to fix it. But solid break out of the falling wedge and pushing right to the 21-day moving average. Okay. So here you are in your wedge, and now you're breaking up. All right. See how we're above that? That was the next thing we needed to do. If we have a lower low tomorrow, we could see some selling. Did we have a lower low today? No, we did not. What was our next goal? 331. Where did we close? 332.54. Okay. So we closed above the 21 day. We closed above the 50 day. Okay. We're above the 200. The 5-8 just crossed 2-3 days ago. Okay, so let's get rid of all this and now say, okay, where would we go if we were looking at this? Where is the next level of issue? Well, here's this trend line, and where does that trend line hit? Right? If we drew this out, right? Where's that trend line hit? If you follow this up, they both hit the same spot. Okay, so you have a crux coming at 327. Now at 327 we could, or I'm sorry, 337. At 337 we could reject. And just come back and backfill and base. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that we're rolling and everything's going to go down. It just means that we're going to base. So just keep that in mind. That said, I'm very comfortable with it. I like the action today. I thought it was great action. But I do expect there to be some backfill. And that's why I'm saying you don't need to be running into everything right now. RBLX from the newsletter, we have it in the newsletter. Put it in there when it broke through the 78. And you could see, the stop was 5 points. We're going to move the stop up. Obviously, at this point, we're up. I think we're actually up even more than that now. Where are we? So now you're up 16%. So, you're getting to that point where I'm going to recommend trimming some eventually, but it's just acting way too strong. Today was the first day of the breakout. Opened at the low. Couldn't even get back to the close. And then just ran all day long. It's exactly what you want to see. So then this the BPA of 78 will move it up. I still think you're going to be a triple-digit stock here. The amount of money that people tell me that their kids spend on this is just staggering. And I don't think that that's going to stop. So I still like the name. And we'll figure it out when it gets to 100. I wouldn't chase. I would buy on pullbacks. And there were pullbacks for some sense of them today, right? There were opportunities to buy this today. Let's look at the 15-minute. So you can see here we are. We break out, and then it forms a flag, and then it goes. So it gives you opportunities, right? So there are some opportunities. They're not mirrored. There's not like a ton of them, but there are some. So you just have to try and sort them out, You need the pullbacks to buy. You just don't want to be buying on the breakouts still. You need to be really careful about that in this market. So Ruby I bought today, and I actually wound up shorting it. I reversed the position. I put it out on Twitter as to why. And it was like, I shorted like a third of what I was long. I put in an initial position to buy because it's a thin name here on the breakout. And I'm going to walk through this trade so you can understand where I got out, where I was wrong, and what I did about it. So when you're in a trade like this and it's a thinner name, okay, this kind of trade is not something I'm looking at holding on to for years or months. This is something I'm looking to hold on for a couple days, right? To just maybe swing it for 1 to 3 days. That's it. So my time frames when I'm looking at my charts are a little smaller, right? So this is a 15-minute chart. So all I did was use what's called an orb breakout, right? An opening range breakout. That's all I used, something very simple. And I didn't use a 5-minute, I used a 15-minute, which frankly in this market, I really shouldn't have done. And that's because it's a faster market. If I had used this today, I would have gotten in a little sooner and I would have saved a little more money, but I didn't. So I used a 15-minute because I'm trying to see if the bigger dogs are coming in and they're waiting for the 15-minute move. So, and some of them are actually waiting for the hour move. And guess what happened if they waited for the hour move? They did okay today because they stayed out of the way, right? So like where I'm running in, you see where I'm going with this? Where I'm running in, they're not running in. There's no way they're buying that bar, right? So you could see where I'm going with this. And you want to know what the institutions are doing. So, because they're the ones with the money. Okay, so you see how we break? I break above this. I put the order on. I'm all excited and giddy because it looks like it's working. Okay, as soon as I broke this, I'm like, oh, this thing's done. We're done. We can't even stay above 27.65. I sold it and then shorted it. Now, all it did was this. I closed it at the end of the day. I'm out of this trade. So, and it was just a simple trade. Like, okay, I'll stay short it because it's probably going to revert back to this mean, and then it just bounced around. But, nothing really overly technical. You have this little close here, right? And then it looked like you might get that bar and get that push, but you didn't, and it just came back down. So just keep that in mind. This is not something that is not something I would go near anymore. Like this is a major rejection today, and you opened and then you closed at the low of the day. So chances to me are that this is going to get hit pretty hard. Fundamental news can always change that, but technically this has major issues now. And I know people are like, oh, it's just back in the base. No. You have a red bar that is encapsulating the past 6 days of buying, and we closed below that. So this is much worse than people think it is, in my opinion. And I do think that this is going lower. Closed right at the 50. Not that it really, matters because you've been basing for so long. But just watch this. If you're along this, I'd be really, really careful here. And I hope that explanation worked through what I did on that trade. Lots of lines here. Lots of lines. Okay, this is the socks. Let's throw this down and pull this down here. And I'm surprised I don't have that. There it is, because I knew we had this in the newsletter. So we're in this from the newsletter from 32.25. Our stop is 29. Our stop easily will move to 32.25. Look, when you're up to 40, I would look at getting out. When it hits this level, you might want to look at 39 and just peeling some off. You're up 20% from that point, I think, 7 points. 7 points, 20%. Yeah. So 39.25, 39 right there. I'd peel some off. Let me throw these indicators in. Okay. I think you're going to get through the 50, but you can pull back and just sit and watch it. But your stop should be down to a break even. Now let's get rid of all these indicators and clean this up. So you can see we broke this, and now we're running right into this channel, and then we're going to go right to this one. This has been our nemesis. So remember this back when we hit the crux of these three, and I said, hey, just wait and see what happens. Then we rejected, came back down, and now we're going to break out. We're going to get up through this, and we're going to push through this, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be great. I just think that you're going to be dealing with some issues before then. It's very clear that I hope it's clear to everybody that I think that we've bottomed. I've been saying it since we were down here. And if you go back and you look at our Wednesday buy when everybody was puking stock, and, we did this on the pre-market. And again, I think I already said this, but we're going to do the pre-market show formally now every day, Monday through Friday at 8:45 a.m. Roughly around that time. I'd start a couple minutes sooner, a couple minutes later. So subscribe to the channel, click notifications. You're going to get to the top of this level. Okay. And then you could roll. But when we bought this on Wednesday, this is where I said I'm buying the socks. I mean, it was pretty clear. I was just like, well, I give it $1. Like, I mean, it really wasn't much more than that, right? I mean, you're looking at that and going, well, if I'm going to break that, I'm going to break major support, right? So if I'm going to break major support, which is what that is, let me just give you an idea of what that could have meant. Okay, it could have meant that you would have a 36% decline, right? Because you count the base, okay? So you go, oh, well, what would 36% have done to me? Okay, well, that would have put me roughly here, down 9 points. Okay, it would have taken me back to 15, 16. I'm like, I don't know that we're going to November, December levels, right? I just don't think that we're going there. Okay, but I still need to honor my stop. So here it was simple. Just add $1 to it, and that was it. And just so, okay, well, I'm in at 28. I think it was 28.50 we got in. And, just 27.50. There's your stop. That's it. There's nothing here that really denotes that stop, right? But you have to quantify it somehow. You have to quantify your risk. I've done nothing with this trade. There's nothing to do. Leave it alone. But when you get to this range, you may want to consider pulling some off. And we have enough of a cushion now that it just doesn't matter. Just leave it alone. And I do want to touch, whoever's going to do the timestamps is going to kill me because I don't know why I didn't bring this one up. ARK triggered again. This 107, I said this on Twitter. It triggered for the second time. These people that are out writing letters for Motley Fool that are out there saying, this is why I'm short it. If you realize who's paying Motley Fool now, I didn't know that it was Citadel and Melvin Capital. So they have more motives with what they're saying than they're alluding to. And if you're shorting this right now, you have issues because one, they're not levered, right? They're not a levered ETF. So you need to understand that. You're not shorting something that's heavily margined or levered, right? You're shorting an ETF with a woman that's taking in billions and billions of dollars to put to work and buy stocks that are cheaper as they're coming in. So the idea that this is going to blow up in spectacular fashion is delusional. Could it go down? Absolutely. But waiting for this huge blow up, the only way that's going to happen is if there's actual negligence or fraud. If you believe that, then that's fine, but that's got to be your bet because other than that, it's not going to happen. And you're betting against somebody that, decided to tell you to buy Tesla, 4,000 points ago. So, there's better places to put your short money. And if you were going to short it, we threw this idea out there to short it up here when it was hitting the 50-day, and we traded it up here a couple times. But if you were going to short it, maybe short it before it's down 37%. Now's not the time. And I understand you're below the 200-day and people are still negative on it, but we're long this in the newsletter. And anyone that is short this, I'd love to hear your thesis on why you need to be short this right now. So maybe I'll learn something. In regards to space, look, I did not expect this move today. I was pretty clear about it. In the pre-market, I'm kind of surprised by it. We opened at 25.5, 25.31. Your high today was 27. And where'd you close? You closed right at 26. So you closed. If you bought it on the day, you made a point off the open. Look, I mean, I think it's great that it got above the 50-day. It's the first time it closed above the 50-day since here. I had a small short position on this, and it went down, break even to a little bit of a loss, and I got out of the way. It was way too strong against this 24 line. See this 23.90 line that I have there? Watch this here. Look at this. So this was my line. Okay. And I was just watching it and I'm like, and I was shorted on the break and then I'm like, oof. And then boop. I'm like, oh no, this is not going to work. I'm wrong. And it's time to go. And it's something just so simple as that, where, if you're in a period of time and on a short, I'm not betting it's going to zero. I'm thinking it's going to fill the gap and go down to here, right? I'm just thinking it's going to do a simple gap fill, right? Like you can see where major support is on this 15-minute anyway. So I'm just thinking it's going to gap to there, and that didn't happen. So it's like, okay, I got to get out of this, because if this thing gets squeezed, it can run. I'm just not overly excited about that chart. So let's go through STEM here. And look, I want to just go through this one because I got asked about it repeatedly. I get it. I see what you're saying. I don't know the real reason why everyone's so excited about it. I'm sure that someone's going to tell me. But 28 and a quarter is really where you have to be looking at this. And I know people don't want to hear that. And there is some good news for people. Look at these gaps in the chart. I mean, who's ever buying this, open is the low, open is the low, open is basically the low, open is basically the low, right? I mean, people are getting in this for whatever reason. Now, whether or not that continues, I don't know. But you are just gapping every morning for the past 4 days to get in this. So maybe there's something that I don't know and everybody else does that's coming out. But for me, you have the break here. So I'd want to get at least above this 26 line. I'd at least want to be above this to convince myself that I've got something. And that's 2 points. If you don't want to wait, you can always buy it. And then if it takes out a lower low, get out. But if this is going to go, it's going to come up, come back down, and then go. So it's going to be really tough that you're going to have to understand that you can get stopped out of this. And then you just have to find a way to enter. But you're in a major downtrend. So, I'm not really crazy about the pattern. I'm really not going to lie. I mean, it's not something that, I'm jumping into, but these gaps in the chart are just, something's going on. Someone has to be in it, and the volume's not up. So 10 was one that we had in the Saturday letter, or the Saturday top 10 list. And I did speak to some people, and I tell you what we're going to do with that. We're going to go and do a Sunday night live call when everybody's done. Maybe around 6 or 7, when everyone's done with their family, we'll do a solid hour at least of questions and things along those lines. I think it's a better time to do it because Saturday when we're doing the live call, people are basically listening to me do the top 10 list, which is kind of pointless, right? That's not really what you want to do. You want to ask your questions about your stocks. So I just think it's a better use of everybody's time. And then it breaks it up a little bit too. So, but 10 was on that top 10 list, and it just made me think of that we're going to make that change. You're going to head up to here. And I think it's going to happen sooner than later. And I think this is setting up for a huge move, like a huge move. You see how you're gapping on this? Look, see how you're gapping on these? I mean, look at the volume coming in. Something's going on here, on the fundamental side, but now we're clearing these little channel lines. You clear this top channel line, this thing's gone. Like this is a very powerful chart when you do this. When you come down like this and then run, you're setting up, and look at the volume that's coming in this versus where you've been. I mean, your volume is up dramatically from where you once were, and you really need to pay attention to that. So I think this has much more upside 10. So Tesla did exactly what we said it was going to do. I don't think we could have been any clearer. We said this was our trend line. We showed the trend line on Tesla. You can see it, failed it, came back down, basically a little morning star pattern. Boom. The low just happens to be right where our downward trend line is. Gets above the 200, can't do it. Opens below the 200, gets above it. Hasn't closed above the 200 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Okay, so this is the first time in a week. I still think you're pegging the 646. So, for those people that like playing options on this, I think that you're just starting. You're at least going to here. I mean, you're at least getting the 627. There's nothing there that's going to stop it. Your real issue is this break bar, right? Which just happens to also fall on the 50-day. Okay. And this stock is acting weaker than the NASDAQ. And I say that because of the positions of the moving averages. So Twilio is one that we all love. And I just want to point this out. That's why it's in here. I'd be very cautious here. It can work. It can also fall apart right here. Right where it is with this 21 and 50 crossing. So something's going to happen here, and I don't know what's going to happen, but you need to really watch this because you're in the gap, right? So you have a lot of these little moving spots. Okay. You have a spot here, right? You have all these little spots right here that are going to act up. Okay, this is going to act up, this is going to act up, and they can act as rejection. Now, you got above this one, but you're not above that one, and you have to get above the 21-day. And you didn't close above the 200-day. So just watch that. So UPST, I hopefully I made people laugh today when I said it. I'm like, everybody loved it at 162, and everybody owned it. At 140, everyone's saying they don't know, who. There is absolutely nothing broken here whatsoever. Nothing. And I actually think I could go lower. I'd put a starter position on today. I think I'm in at 143, and I'll walk through it. I think I did on Twitter, but I'll walk through it real quick. So this is going to be a large position for me as it comes in. I'm hoping it comes in and goes lower. But, when you can see my levels, right? So when we came down today and then it just came down so much. Let me just do this on a 5 minute. So, and let's get rid of these indicators. So this was today, obviously, and we opened, collapse, tries to get through this line, can't do it, opens, can't get through this line, comes down, collapses. And then very simply, I saw a little pattern, I bought it, and that was it. I mean, it was really nothing more than that. But, if you were going to get out of it, you just look at where you have your support lines and you could see, right? Like that's where you would have sold. And you see how it held this one. I don't see anything majorly broken here at all. I actually think that they are forming a handle. That's kind of interesting. We even have that little doji at the end, green. I actually think you're forming a handle, and I think that handle is going to lead to a much higher price. I think you have this cup here, and then you're going to form a little handle from here, something like this, and then you're going to do this. Something, and let me just put this here, something very similar to this. See how you're up here, and then you came back down, but it's much smaller. See how you have this, and then you came back down, and then you went up. So I think that's what you're going to get. Probably more selling tomorrow, and then I'll add to it, and then I think you're going to see a push up. So that's it in a nutshell. As always, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and please leave comments on stocks that you have questions about. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.